Hello Musicianship 5, Caitlin and Grumpybach here, back in my house again, yay! This week we are going to be looking at analysis and more importantly how you can analyse pieces that you're playing or want to study in a kind of simple and effective way. So the piece we are going to analyse today is Minuet number 11 by Ignatius Sancho. Do you know how hard it is to find a Bach contemporary who's not a white man? Shout out to Chris for pointing me in the way of Sancho. Also, this whole laptop on the piano thing, yeah, don't try this at home, I don't own a printer. So the thing we can do when we're analysing a piece of music, the easiest thing we can do is going through the elements of music and determining what is happening with each one. So, looking at this to begin with, Sancho was a Baroque composer, which makes sense with the title Minuet. So what we know about minuets is that they are a dance form very prevalent in the Baroque era, and these are in 3/4. And as you can see, this makes sense. This is in 3/4 and it's called minuet. Almost like someone thought of this, that someone being the composer. So the 3/4 does not change at any point in the piece, so this covers tempo already, that's done. There is no anacrusis, we are just nice, simple 3/4, first beat of the bar all the way through. In terms of the tempo, there's not a marking because this is Baroque period and they don't like marking things very much at all, waste of ink. But everyone would have known the tempo of a minuet because it is a popular dance. So this is relatively sprightly but not fast. It's not slow. If it was slow, then it would be more like a saraband if the pulse were in the right place. But instead you'll have a kind of bright but moderate tempo. It's piano time, sorry. It's also very out of tune. Sorry. So we would have about that tempo. I haven't sight read this through yet, so they're prepared for some dodgy piano playing. Next, let's look at dynamics. Again, like BPM or tempo markings, dynamics aren't very popular to write in the Baroque period. We have a crescendo towards the end of the second line, that is it, that's all we've got. So otherwise, it's up to you, you know, put in a bit of contrast. But then you can ask, where would I put in this contrast? Well, that is when we look at the structure. Let's figure out the structure for this. So we've got and then we have a repeat of that. So we've got a nice A section, which is in 2 long phrases. As you see, we start with a 2, 3, da, 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 etc. And then we get this theme start again. This is towards the end of the first line. We have in the right hand, you see G, A like the beginning, but then we have then that means that we've kind of started a different phrase and it starts the same. Da, 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 da. In both, and the left hand's the same as well. Whatever it is. So 2 phrases, they start the same, but they're a bit different. So you could say, okay, well I want my first one to be quiet and then my second one to be louder within the first section. Or you can have a bit more of just general sectional dynamics. So you can say, okay, so this is quite high in the piano part, so I'm going to make it a bit louder so that we think, okay, the dance is starting now, and that kind of, well, you hear that. And then when we get to the second section, we start off the same, but we start, rhythmically we start the same, but the notes are different, so yeah, it's different, it's more interesting harmonically. We'll get onto the harmony later. Is it more interesting harmonically? It's different. Okay, it's just different. And then again, you can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bar long phrase. And then we again have a repeat. So this is a third bar of the last line. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We've got the dotted min in D again, but instead of going like the beginning of this second section, we go. No, we don't. No, we don't. My apologies. So we've got what's called intervallic expansion. We expand this interval. It's been expanded by quite a lot. It's not just. We've just. So you could put your dynamics that way. You could have a loud first section and a quieter second section. You could split it up into the 2 phrases of each section. Each section is repeated. So you've effectively got 1, 2, 3, 4 cells before the repeat, including a repeat, and 4 after cells, phrases. 4 phrases before the repeat bar and 4 phrases after the repeat bar of the second section. So quite a lot to work with. You can decide what you want, how much variety you want. The only thing you need to do is put in the crescendo at the end of the second line, which Sancho has already written in. So we've worked out the structure as well. Through this we are in A-B form and each section is repeated. Groovy. In terms of tonality, we need to ask ourselves, okay, what key are we in?
I am once again asking,
what key are we in? So there are 2 flats in our key signature. So this indicates that we are either in B flat major or G minor. So B flat major, you would have no accidentals. In G minor, you would have an added F sharp, and we can already see in the second bar we have an F sharp. Notice how, though, it looks a bit more interesting because he's playing with the pull between harmonic and melodic minor. So first, followed by. So he's kind of making it a bit more funky here. He's kind of toying with you. What key am I in?
I am once again asking,
what key are we in? It is G minor. Then the melodic minors. The harmonic minor would be, which is not very Baroque. You hear it's cool interval, but it's a dissonance in the Baroque period. So that's why that augmented interval at the end of the harmonic minor scale is not there. However, we start with a G in the right hand in the top, and then the very chord that we end on, the final bar of the piece, is, which is G. So that tells us we are in G minor. Looking through, we can see whether we modulate at any point, and any modulations would be made clear with further accidentals, or lack thereof if we are going to the relative major. So we can see there are not an awful lot of accidentals happening in the first half of the second line. This is the final kind of 5 bars or so before the repeat line in the middle of the piece. So there are a few Fs here and they are not sharp, and you can see at the very end of this, the 2 bars, if I play this, there's 2 bars before the repeat line, we vaguely have that is not a chord of G minor. So we have indeed gone to B flat major, the relative major, at the very end of the first section. What happens then? Moving into the second section, we've got F sharps back there in the third bar of the second section. We then move along. We have got, if we go to, this is the very last bar of the second line. I'll play from the beginning of the line. Play again. We have a chord of B flat major, and then so here what's happened at this is the beginning of the third line, the final line. we have an E natural in the bass. So we go, have the G. So this very first chord, we're kind of getting into the harmony of it now. Notice how there's quite a bit of overlap between elements. We'll look a bit more at harmony in depth in a sec, but we're going to kind of need to look at the harmony in order to figure out the tonality at different points. So we've got E flat, first inversion, and then an empty fifth on G. Then we've got the same thing happens, but C minor first inversion to empty E flat fifth, and then so notice how all of this is just going towards the chord with F major at the very end of the second bar of that final line. So that E natural there is implying it's the raised seventh going into a chord of F major, which is 5 in B flat major. So this is what we call a secondary dominant. This is definitely now harmony over tonality, but again, intertwine. We have again cadence in B flat major. Secondary dominants are where you have the dominant of the dominant, and that's included in the piece, so it's not a primary dominant as in like the first level of dominance, as in the dominant of the key that you're in. How many times can I say dominant? It is the dominant of the dominant of the key that you're in. Dominant section. And then we're kind of chilling in B flat major again. This is towards the middle of the final line, and then towards the end, the last 4 bars, we have the F sharp again, so again G minor, and then F sharp in the bass, we've got a cheeky little B natural here. This is less of a harmonic feature and more of a melodic feature. It is an accented lower auxiliary, if we're going to be pernickety about it. So that's lower auxiliary is when you have upper auxiliary instead of just. It adds a little bit of interest, right? And it's accented because it falls on the beat as opposed to off the beat. Mozart does this an awful lot, and it just adds a bit of interest. So if I go from that bar again and play it as a B flat, that's not as interesting and doesn't have as much pull as if we raise it. So yes, that's a melodic feature as opposed to a feature of tonality, but yes, everything merged into one. Some things kind of cross over between the different elements, but as long as we're kind of going through just a little checklist in our head of each element, we can see, okay, which ones are interesting, which ones have not very much going on, and things like that.